Can you guess what video I'm doing? Hello and welcome back to my channel. It's Tina, and today is another author ranking video, and today I'm ranking the queen of contemporary female horror. It's Rachel Harrison Day. So I should say I'm going to be ranking all of Rachel Harrison's novels. She does have a short story collection that's called Bad Dolls, I think. And I tried to read this when it came out some years ago and I ended up DNFing it. I don't love a short story collection. I wish I did, and maybe I'll get into them someday. But as it stands, I thought it wouldn't be a fair ranking because I was pretty sure it would go last. So I'm going to be ranking Rachel Harrison's novels from least favorite to most favorite. I have pretty strong opinions. And I have some thoughts overall about her writing. And at this point, I feel like I've read enough of her books to have a pretty balanced take on it. I always said I had a complicated relationship with her writing because it began with The Return. That book came out in 2020. And then she has had a new book come out every fall since then. I struggle with that in general from authors who are very prolific, who have a new novel that come out every year. Sometimes I'm wondering, could this one have baked a little bit more? Or are you just on that publishing cycle where you have to publish however many books because that's what's guaranteed in your contract? And I feel like sometimes when that happens, we get lesser quality. I will say I find her novels to be very consistent. Some of the things I noticed with her is she's always got a strong female protagonist. You might not always like her female protagonist, but they will be their own people. You will have a strong opinion about them. They will probably have strong opinions that they won't be shy to share with you. And she also tends to have a different supernatural theme for each book, which I love. I think it's so fun to see her books be announced, to see what is she taking on next. So The Return, I would almost call it somebody who comes back changed. So I would say almost like a changeling, or maybe even kind of like a zombie novel or a switched body type novel. Cackle is witches. Such Sharp Teeth is werewolves. Black Sheep is something, it's religious trauma. And that's all I'll say. So Thirsty is vampires and Play Nice. Her most recent one that came out in September of 2025, that is demonic possession. I thought it was a haunted house story, and the house is most certainly a character, but it is not a haunted house story. There is a demon that has taken over the house in that book. So anyway, those are her themes, and I think it's just so clever. I also feel like she's got so many places to go. I want to see her take on a proper ghost novel. I would love to see her do a real haunted house novel. I would really like any sort of creature feature from her. No matter what subject she's tackling, it's going to have a similar tone. And the tone is serious, it's horror, but it's also got other layers to it. It's also not the scariest book she'll ever read. They are lightly spooky. I think they do a great job setting the tone and setting the feeling for fall. These books scream fall for me. And overall, I really enjoyed my reading experience with her. And my ratings are pretty consistent. I have ones that I think I liked a lot that are clear winners, and then ones that I think are clearly on the bottom for me. So with that, let's get into my ranking. All right, so my least favorite novel from Rachel Harrison bummed me out because it's So Thirsty. And this one came out in 2024. And this is her vampire story. Now, this one you have Sloane. Sloane is dreading her upcoming birthday. She feels like she doesn't need a reminder that she's getting older and that she's not where she wants to be in her life. And her husband surprises her. She's going to go on this getaway with her best friend. Now, her best friend is Naomi. They have sort of grown apart in adulthood, but they used to be very close growing up. And they figure it's going to be this weekend of debauchery. They get to their cottage, and Sloane thinks it's going to be a quiet weekend reconnecting. Naomi has other plans, and she convinces them to go out on the town with this mysterious group of strangers. And these strangers, turns out they are indeed vampires. And I won't tell you about the specifics about what happens to these two characters, but just know that I was left wanting, and I'm so sorry to say that. Sloane was not my favorite character. She just felt very sad and never really came out of it. I also really didn't buy their friendship personally. It felt like they are two people who should have broken up as friends a long time ago, which happens sometimes in real life. But it was just not my favorite to read about. I did like when they teamed up with the vampires. That part was fun. I wanted more development there. I wanted even more vampires. I wanted them to continue on with that train of thought. And not to say that they don't hang with the vampires, but I wanted more from that. There is also an ending that is very Thelma and Louise to me. Got a little bit ridiculous thinking, okay, this would never happen. That's one of the other things I love about Rachel Harrison's books, though, is that you could see this happening. Sure, vampires are among us. Absolutely. Like, I could see this happening. And if they did exist, they wouldn't be doing the things that the characters in this book are doing. You know what I mean? Overall, I gave this one 2.5 stars out of 5. Now, next on my least favorite to most favorite is actually The Return. And this is her debut. Again, it came out in 2020, and I was lucky enough to get an arc from this, which is always so exciting to get an arc from an author that you end up loving. This one is about Julie, who is missing, and then she returns. And when she returns, she is changed. Her best friend is Elise, and at the beginning of the novel, Julie's not back yet, but Elise is convinced that she will come back, and then she does. So along with 2 women that they went to college with, they go on this weekend at a remote inn to reunite. And they see very quickly that something has happened to Julie. She's emaciated, she has odd appetites, and as the weekend unfurls, it becomes impossible to deny that the Julie who vanished 2 years ago is not the same Julie who came back. But who or what is she? Now, I love that premise. I love books with people that disappear and come back and that typically are changed for whatever reason. And I did like this one. I really did. I remember thinking it was very cinematic. Oh my goodness, could I visualize this as a movie? This one was beautiful. This inn they're staying at was gorgeous. From what I remember, there's different rooms that each had a different theme, and it was just lovely to read about. And I'm not somebody that can imagine settings very well, but she did a great job with that. I liked the friendship too. I just was left wanting, I think, from the ending itself specifically. I definitely still recommend this one. I just think I was a little bit confused as to what all happened to Julie, right? I wasn't completely sold by that. Still, I enjoyed my time with this and I gave it 3.5 stars out of 5. Next up is one that I just recently read, and it's Such Sharp Teeth. And I liked this one. I really did. I flew through this. I read this over the course of like a day and a half, and I did the audio. From what I recall, the audio was not my favorite. This is her book that came out in 2022. So this is her 3rd novel. And this one's about Rory. Rory came from New York and she has a twin sister. And Rory has moved back to their hometown because her twin is pregnant. And her twin has separated from her partner and really is feeling like she wants her sister. So she agrees, okay, whatever, I'll come home, take some time away from work and spend time with you in your final months of pregnancy and get to know my niece or nephew. So she gets there, and then on the very first night she's there, she goes out to a bar with an old flame, and then she hits a large animal with her car. When she gets out to investigate, she is attacked. And she survives, but things begin to look and feel very different for Rory. She is unnaturally strong. She has an aversion to silver, and she feels like she is changing. But what does she do with this information? And this one I thought was really funny, honestly. It is a werewolf story, clearly, but I honestly appreciate that the author took the time to think through what it would be like if you changed into a werewolf. Again, you're getting that real life. You could imagine this thing happening in real life. It felt realistic. The relationship between the sisters was fine. They had petty bickering, which I sometimes don't vibe with, but overall, I did appreciate their relationship. I like the reveals in this one. I like the exploration of what it would be like to change into a werewolf. I appreciated that. It gave Halloween, it gave small town, and overall I enjoyed it. This is some visceral scenes as well where you can see the character turning, and I like those. And there are 3 books in which the characters seem very similar. This one, Black Sheep and Play Nice, the main characters are all very similar to me, and they are very much their own people. They're a little bit acerbic. They're a little bit stubborn, maybe a lot of bit stubborn. And sometimes you want to shake them because of the decisions that they make, but they're also really strong, independent women. And I really like that. So overall, I enjoyed this one. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Next up is a surprise to me. It is Black Sheep. This one came out in 2023. And I actually just finished this one last week. And I am so surprised that I enjoyed this one. I say that I'm surprised that I enjoyed this one because I initially DNF'd it. This book is about Vesper. Vesper grew up in a religious cult or something like it, right? And she left home when she was 18 and never looked back because in her religion, if you leave the group, you're not allowed to come back. You can't see anybody again, and you're cut off from everyone you knew. So she is working at a restaurant, not really loving her life, but also resigning herself to it. And then she gets a letter, and it basically invites her back to the family farm because her best friend is now marrying her ex-lover, her ex-boyfriend. And she gets invited to the wedding. And she's like, well, they're not going to get married without me there. Like, obviously, I'm showing my face. So she goes back. There are some fantastic reveals in this one, and they made it for me. The reveals in this will either make or break it for you. I personally loved where this went. I wasn't expecting it. I didn't see it coming, and I love that. There's two big reveals, and both of them I was like clapping. I'm like, I see where you're going with this. I so appreciate it. This one is very cinematic. It was a page turner. After the reveals, it dragged a tiny bit for me, and then the ending was very solid. Again, another one that I could see being made into a film, and you'll understand why it's called Black Sheep. It is a double entendre, and that's all I'll say. I really liked this one. I'm giving it 4.25 out of 5 stars, and I'm so glad I'm doing this video because initially, like I said, I DNF'd it, and I'm glad that I went back to it because it ended up being toward the top of my list. Next, which will it be? Which one will it be? Next is Cackle, which means Play Nice is now my new favorite. Rachel Harrison, and I'm so happy to say that. Congratulations, girl. But before that, we'll talk Cackle. Cackle, I loved. I loved it. It is so perfect for fall. This one is her witch novel, and it's about Annie, who's always played it nice and safe. She gets dumped by her boyfriend, and she was living in Manhattan and moves to a small village upstate for a fresh start. The town is picturesque. It's beautiful. She has a great apartment, and the only problem with her apartment, it's got an oddly persistent spider infestation, which gross. Then Annie meets Sophie. Sophie is gorgeous, charming, magnetic, and takes a special interest in Annie and wants to be her friend. And she is very adamant that she wants Annie to stop apologizing for who she is and to get what she deserves. I loved Sophie. For me, Sophie is a great character. Sophie definitely has some things going on, and you find out when you're reading this what's happening. Rachel Harrison's books, if there is a theme, also have a lot of dialogue, a ton of dialogue. And she's really good at writing dialogue. For me, it's funny, it's punchy. On occasion can be a little bit cringe, but also never anything that's too overly cheesy. I liked the setting of this one a lot. I loved witches. Personally, this one's one of my favorite magical novels. This is actually her third novel. It came out after The Return. Actually, this is her second novel. It was a follow-up to The Return, and I just loved this book. I really thought it was excellent. Something else I noticed in Rachel Harrison's books, probably because I've read so many back-to-back, is that she loves pancakes. I don't know if it's in every novel, but I can tell you that there's pancakes in Cackle, there's pancakes in Black Sheep, there's pancakes in Play Nice. Like, I'm sensing a theme. Her characters go out to breakfast a lot, which is kind of a funny thing to notice, but I really enjoyed this one. I gave it 4.5 stars. I don't think I gave it the full 5, but overall, I do highly recommend this one, as I do for almost all of her books, if not all of them. I think they're all worth the read. Finally, that brings us to Play Nice. And this might be recency bias, although I don't think so, because I just finished this book yesterday, and a moment, my manicure matches. Play Nice. First of all, look, there's a creeper in the window. I love that. So this book is about Cleo Louise Barnes, who works as a stylist / influencer. She lives this picture perfect life, but underneath that perfect veneer lies a deep secret. She grew up in a haunted house. Well, not haunted, possessed. So the house is possessed. Her parents had this messy divorce, and Cleo and her 2 sisters moved into a house occupied by a demon, or so their mother claimed. Her sisters are not convinced that their mom was telling the truth, and Cleo doesn't know what to think because she was too young. And then their mother passes away, and Cleo goes back to meet her sisters and her dad to talk about, their mom's passing, and she decides to go to the funeral. When she's at the funeral, she meets her aunt, and she basically says, hey, your mom left this house to you. It also turns out their mother wrote a memoir about their time in this demonic house, and that had tore their family apart, essentially. And so in this book, Cleo finally reads her mother's book, and the presence in the house becomes more real and more sinister. And here is what I like about it. Okay, I liked a lot of this. First of all, I thought it was really good on audio. A couple of the voices weren't my favorite, especially the male voices, but the mom. So you're reading the mom's memoir as a part of this. Whoever narrated that, fantastic job. I also love, as you're reading, somebody is annotating the book. And so you'll get the mom's memoir, and then the mom starts annotating on the side what really happened. And I love that. So she's sort of talking to Cleo, based on what was printed in the memoir, and then either confirming, denying, or, whatever. So for me, this one's the scariest Rachel Harrison, for sure. There's some really creepy, excellent, gory scenes that just will creep you out. This also had a lot of sibling bickering and family fighting, really. They go to therapy. Again, a lot of dialogue with this one. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But for me, I would say the first 2/3 were excellent. And then sort of toward the end, I was like, okay, let's get on with it. And then I did enjoy the ending very much. Cleo is a character you will love or hate. She is complex. She is opinionated. She's selfish, spoiled, and she knows it. So that was kind of fun to read about, frankly. Something else you'll see in Rachel Harrison's books are themes of coming home. You'll also see themes of witty characters and complicated family relationships. Her books are also young. They feel young millennial Gen Z-esque, which I like personally. I enjoy that. And I think she really understands women and how to write women and how to write flawed women, which make it feel realistic, right? Her characters are not really cookie cutter. They have similarities, but they feel realistic. And that is what I like about Rachel Harrison's writing. I'm thinking about this. I don't think I'm going to give it a full 5 stars. I would love to. I'm going to stick with 4.5 stars for this one. Overall, I do highly recommend it. And I cannot wait to see what Rachel Harrison comes out with next. I was nervous there for a moment because I really thought, oh my gosh, after I read So Thirsty, I'm like, I really didn't like that book. And it made me worried because I was like, am I going to find books of hers that I like? Because at that point, I read The Return, Cackle, and then I didn't read anything until So Thirsty. And I was like, wait a minute, do I not like her writing? So I am happy to say that I'm fully back. This book was definitely worth your time, and pick it up for spooky season. Well, that is it for today. I hope you enjoyed my Rachel Harrison novel ranking. I want to know, have you read all of them? Are you going to read all of them? Which ones did you like? Which is your favorite? Which is your least favorite? I don't know that there is an overall consensus with her novels. I don't know if there's one that's like everybody's favorite. I do think most people really like Cackle. I also think a lot of people are really enjoying Play Nice, which makes me happy to see. But let me know in the comments which one's your favorite. Have you read her? If you haven't, you should. And I will see you in my next video. Bye.